In this video, I want to cover a specific instance of how you might need to lead the normies, right? And being able to navigate the type of power dynamics at work, particularly if you're pursuing leadership roles, and how to lead without being undermined, right? And what I'm going to use as a reference point will be the 48 Laws of Power, which is a book written by Robert Greene. You're probably aware of him. I've covered him in a few videos. The book 48 Laws of Power has been used by major political figures, public figures, anyone from 50 Cent to a Bill Clinton have referenced this as using this in their negotiation strategies and dealing with different types of personalities when it comes to power. Here's a photo you've got with Robert Greene and Drake, the Drizzler, the Diddler, whatever they call him these days. So in terms of negotiation strategies, I'm sure he's advising many public figures also on how they are perceived and presenting themselves. So now there are many different laws in the 48 Laws of Power, that book. I've covered some of them in previous videos. In this video, I'm going to talk about things that are really in relation to leadership, authority, commanding respect. Now, law 3 of the book is around concealing your intentions. So why is it crucial in corporate life? If you're too transparent in corporate life, then what ends up happening is you're easier to manipulate, right? Office politics typically rewards strategic thinking and discretion. And how can you apply it in a corporate role? Right? Never reveal your career moves or ambitions too early and let the results speak for themselves. You want to keep a neutral tone in meetings. Don't expose all your thoughts or your strategy. Many people speak up too much, and as you know, the phrase loose lips sink ships. Sometimes people are too open and free with discussing their intentions. I'll give you an example here. Say a manager asks you a question, do you see yourself in a leadership role here? You might say, sure, which opportunities do you see for myself? Then you analyze the situation, think it through and answer, right? And what I mean by that, sometimes they ask you a question, which is a leading question or trying to point out that you might be the odd one out or you're not doing what we think you should be doing. And then you just ask for clarification. Okay, can you explain that to me in more detail? Oh, what exactly do you think would be a good suggestion here? So you kind of push them to kind of make it clear what they're trying to say, read in between the lines of what they're trying to say. So this is what I mean. You can answer a question with a question, then analyze what they say and then answer, rather than reacting kind of emotionally in the moment when they're trying to trigger you. So that's why it's important to conceal your intentions, not make it clear, even though people are going to push you, particularly, co-workers who might be competing with you to act out and say things you don't want to say. You have to be careful about that passive aggressiveness. Law number 8 is around making others come to you and using bait if necessary. And what do we mean by that, right? Sometimes if you're too available, it weakens your perceived value in the office, and the person who controls access controls the power dynamic. In a corporate jobs, you want to make sure that, if people need your expertise, you don't immediately rush to help them. Let them request the help, frame your contributions as solutions that they desperately need, and that you're giving favors, sharing your information to help them. Don't give them too much, of course. Make sure they're dependent on you. An example could be a lazy employee is kind of asking for your help, but they never reciprocate and help you. So you should say, oh, I have some ideas, but let me know your view first. Let me know your approach first. This to make sure they value your insights and kind of points out the difference between how little they know and how dependent they are on you to help them. And this is the thing, right? People don't appreciate your help or your work ethic until they are dependent on you, or it's clear they are depending on you. And that's why sometimes through little techniques like this, you can really make it obvious that they are really desperately asking you for your help, and they can't just demand and snap their fingers and expect you to do a ton of work for them with no credit. Law number 16 is around using absence to increase respect and honor. So this is kind of important. It's crucial in corporate life, right? If you're too present, it makes people take you for granted. Scarcity increases values, invisibility and representation and your reputation, right? Because in corporate jobs, you might want to value your time and use absence to increase respect, in the sense that if there's unnecessary meetings, you might want to skip these and let others realize that if they want to invite you to meetings, they should value your time. They shouldn't just clog up your calendar with a ton of pointless meetings. Be selective with how often you're socializing, going to team events in specific instances to create an air of mystery or intrigue. Some of those things do help you. But a specific example to benefit you here is that if the boss is always expecting you to be on call, you could occasionally delay your responses within reason, right, without being too late. This subtly shifts the perception of your time as valuable, right? So it leads to more respect. So if they're always demanding quick answers and you're responding quickly, you appear a bit like for lack of a better phrase, like a lapdog, right? They're snapping their fingers and they're training you like a dog. Do that. Respond to this. Why aren't you responding to my email now? I need it immediately. if you kind of, doing a good job, you can just delay your response a bit. Like, yes, I'm working on it. So they don't try to exploit you and treat you like a slave, right? Or an animal that they can just boss around to do whatever. That's why you got to maintain your composure and move at your own pace to a certain extent. Those are all important things, right? You don't be taken for granted, and this is why you got to be careful with how often you're seen. Of course, you want to present yourself well and don't cut yourself up from everyone else, because that's dangerous and another law I covered in another video. But you don't want people to kind of just see you as like a generic low value employee that they can disrespect or just use, right? You're there for a specific purpose at a specific time to get specific things done or build specific connections. You're not just there for them to just exploit you on a never ending basis. Law number 20, right? So what we're talking about, law number 20 here, is about do not commit to anyone, right? Make sure you don't commit to people who are on sinking ships, right? Office cliques, be neutral in office conflicts, and focus on your own results. Because I know instances where there's cliques that form in the office, and then they have different approaches to work or what projects they want to work on that they think can help the company, and there's like an internal battle between two sides, and then in the end you're might be on the wrong side of it, and then it creates unnecessary enemies in the office, and you're just trying to go to work and do your job. And these are the type of things to kind of look out for, because you want to be neutral in office conflicts. You want to focus on your results and how you're reflected, rather than getting clicked up with a particular group who might be positively perceived now, but if management change, they might see them as disposable. So you have to be careful you're not limiting your flexibility. You're on neutral ground if power does shift in terms of the office, right? And this is the thing, right? If you keep connections with multiple teams, you're not dependent on one. They're not all seeing you, oh, you're on that side and I'm on this side, right? In the phrases you can use, like, oh, I see both perspectives of both teams, and my focus is just on getting the work done and focusing on the results. And so many things you can just achieve by being emotionally detached and just focused on doing what you need to do. If there are two teams competing for leadership's approval, like management approval, don't take a side, offer value to both, and remain like useful to both, so you don't get caught up in this type of internal struggle. And just as a side note, when I see it, it's a bit like a game of chess, which you can see on your screen right now. And this type of cringe company photo, I would always avoid being in any of these photos because I just thought they were just cringe. But if you look at that photo, none of these people probably get on with each other, and even the appearance on their faces, we're all friends here, but that's just not how it works. And you just got to navigate that, and these laws will help you navigate dealing with these type of cringe fake personalities, the NPC, right? The man taking a photo with his mouth open, the bug man, soy boy stereotype, which is kind of there. Law number 31, controlling the options. Get other to play the options, right? Play the cards you're dealing, right? For example, sometimes instead of asking, can I please work remotely? You might want to say, would you prefer I work remotely 3 days a week, or should I set a hybrid schedule? This guides decision making by limiting the options. Now, of course, that's a bit of a specific example. Depends on your career. You want to open a conversation with your manager like that about working from home if the company's pushing everyone to return to the office. But it's worthwhile considering by limiting options, making it clear there's certain boundaries, what you're going to accept, what you're not going to accept. Maybe in the way people communicate with you, or people taking cheap shots and jokes at your expense, just being like, well, I don't put up with that. Controlling the options in any sense and having a clear boundary. Well, I'll put up with this, I'll do this, I can't do that. That's outside the scope of my job. I'm happy to help with this. These type of ways of controlling the options will really kind of show you have some self-respect and you're not going to let people walk all over you. Because influence comes from framing situations, and when people feel like they have no choice. But you've got to build a set of options that actually benefit you, and you're not compromising too much of what you want. When it comes to presenting ideas, don't give necessarily, like I say, a yes-no option, but just say, okay, there's a set of options and these things can work for me and work for you, rather than just being like a one-sided thing where they're kind of using you. Now, law number 33 is around discovering each man's thumbscrew, right? Now, what do we mean by that? You want to essentially be able to understand that typically people have different weaknesses or pressure points, and you can use this to influence decisions or use them in a way that would benefit you without exploiting them. So you want to figure out what motivates people, the boss, the colleagues. It could be a variety of different things, and you can use this information to shape negotiations and position yourself as valuable. An example would be, if you frame something, if the management, for example, is very concerned with how senior management are perceiving them, they want to look good in front of senior management, you can say, well, look, if I do this project, of course, it'll help me in this way, but also help your perception with senior management. It'll highlight the strengths of your team. during your next meeting with executive senior management. So if whatever other people are focused on in their value system, you try to play into that. If people, for example, have pleasure points, which would be maybe they have an interest in buying watches, watching TV shows, you can mention, oh, if we work hard on this project, you'll be able to, leave early and watch that TV show, or we'll get a bonus next year and you make enough money for that watch or that house you want to buy, things like that. Pressure points, people have different pressure points, tight deadlines, toxic co-workers or different colleagues, right? So you might say, oh, I can take care and have a chat with that colleague you don't get on well with, or I can help you meet that deadline if in exchange you help me with the work task I'm on, right? Other thing is focus on people's motivation. I mentioned that case of a manager being concerned with senior management perception of them and their job security or social status. Those are other things that motivate people. Or if they want more control over their life or their career. These are the things you need to think about, what's motivating people. And the thing is, if you negotiate, like I say, with helping people achieve their goals, they'll be helpful in achieving your goals, right? And the phrase "discover each man's thumbscrew," right? It's a bit like probably not the greatest word to use, but it's a bit like if you have a champagne bottle and you have a corkscrew in the champagne bottle and you're unscrewing it, you're kind of figuring out how do you release the kind of pressure valve or the pleasure valve to move forward with things by getting things done and understand what gets it done. So the last little law we're going to learn from here is strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter, right? So the whole concept here is that, typically most people are sheep. We have the term NPCs or normies. And an example could be, dealing with different influence at work, right? You have influence that flows from key power players, maybe senior management, popular people in the office, and the influence flows from these key individuals, and you need to focus on what's going on there and who's the key power players. Now you can leverage that, whether it's to get a promotion or deal with other difficult co-workers by befriending whoever's the real power player. You can remove toxic co-workers in that sense, or create a boundary between them, some stability and control. If a team member is trying to sabotage you, don't engage in any type of petty fight. What you should do instead is documenting their actions, exposing their behavior, strategically gaining the trust of allies, and once their support is gone, the influence tends to collapse. If a co-worker keeps undermining you in meetings, don't fight them directly. Instead, focus on building alliances with their supporters. So that's the example at the very bottom of the screen, right? The co-workers undermine you in meetings, so you can build alliance with their supporters, so they kind of lose their power in the office. Now, unfortunately, you'd think you'd go to work and it's all about working hard and doing a good job. But to lead effectively, deal with these type of office politics, you need to be able to deal with these type of dynamics, right? Controlling the flow of information, not revealing your entire hand, commanding respect, so people respect you when it comes to work, and leveraging people's motivations to understand what drives them and use it wisely to benefit yourself, and staying ahead of the suckers, the energy vampires, the type of negative people, so you have leverage. Now, what I want to do is just briefly finish up with reversing this to think about how these laws are used against you. Typically, the shepherd and the sheep. The shepherd might be management. The sheep are co-workers at more junior levels. That's how the corporate world uses it against you. They put you in a position where you're like a sheep and they're like the wolves. They can snap their fingers, come up with any positive or negative narrative about you, find any reason to leverage that against you if they want to get rid of you. So you can see how these laws are being used against you. Just so you're aware, these 48 laws of power do apply against you, not just for you, right? So don't feel bad about using these laws when they are being leveraged against you. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Management will do that. They'll threaten your job if you don't do what they say, or they might motivate you by saying, oh, you can get a bigger bonus by doing this extra work. Controlling the options, they do the same thing, like, oh, you can come back to the office, or we're going to fire people who want to keep working from home. Don't commit to anyone. They want you to commit to the company, but they're not going to commit to you, right? They could find any reason to get rid of you. Now, using absence to increase respect, sometimes management, particularly, there's some management who aren't doing a lot of work and they're just delegating all their work and going through a few meetings, but they use absence to increase their respect, being in their own private office, only responding to emails on a delayed format. I see this all the time. They're not doing a lot. They're just not responding to people to give the appearance of being busy. I see that a lot in the office. Point number 8 is around making others come to you. That's the same thing management do, right? They're very selective. They have office hours, certain times where you can approach them with questions, certain times you can't. Even though, like I say, a lot of them are not busy. They're just socializing in the office and they've got a position of power that they're sticking with. Other thing is concealing your intentions, right? What are your intentions at the end of the day, right? what are the company's intentions? You don't know if the company's going to come up with a layoff strategy tomorrow. You don't know if they're going to promote you or fire you in a sense. You might get some clues, but you don't really know. You don't know if the team's going to split, if there's going to have more management layers above you, right? If your manager could change tomorrow. Everyone's concealing their intentions. You should have no problem or no kind of moral dilemma with covering your intentions. And then we have, like I say, the picture of Robert Greene. Interesting. We're going to cover it in a few more videos. Check out my old videos on this. If you're dealing with issues in the workplace, link in description to speak with me directly. I'll help you map your career all the way to freedom, outsmarting office politics, things like this, surviving and thriving in the workplace as a man, preparing for promotions and lucky layoffs, and accelerating your path to success. So link in description if you want to speak with me directly. 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you next time.